How are you doing today, Erik?
Fine, I'm watching the Olympic Games.
I wanted to thank you for taking the time to share about
Welcome.
your story, about your journey. I'm super excited, and we met before, so it's nice to finally have this chance to actually interview you. Erik, I would love if you could share a little bit about who you are, where you're from, so that people can also, get to know you a little bit more.
Okay, so my name is Erik Lamens. I'm 58 years old and I live in Brussels, Belgium. I'm a filmmaker that's screenwriter and a director. I also work for television and I teach. And I have been involved actively in the stuttering community since 2011, when I became president, a co-founder and president of the Belgian Stuttering Association. Um, I'm now almost fluent. I have very small blocks like now, but they last only like less than a second or a few seconds, and I choose synonyms and I change my sentences. So you most people don't hear actually that I have a stuttering problem, but I'm quite an exception because I was a very heavy stuttering child. So I had in my worst periods when I had to do speech in front of the classroom or things like that, it could take me like 1 minute to say one word. Uh, um, it gradually got better when I got older, and it's hard to say when exactly you could still hear it. Probably when I was 20, 25, you could still hear it a lot. By the time I was 30, I think it was almost gone.
And it can be very, very challenging for a child, right? To go through
Yes,
like
yes.
stuttering, especially if it's severe. How did having a severe like stuttering as a child, how did that impact you?
Very much. It has shaped my life. I might be fluent now, but I still bear the scars. I was bullied very much. This was in the 70s, so I'm born in 65. So in the 70s, there was no real action against bullying in schools. So I felt all alone in the world for a very long time. I didn't know any other people that stuttered. So I'm actually now kind of a bit jealous of the young people that stutter now. Of course, I mean, most people wish they wouldn't stutter, but they have, well, you have Stamily now, you have Stuttering Society, you have World Stuttering Network, you have all the social media that makes it very easy to communicate. In my time, you had to pick up a phone, a landline, and call somebody else. And when I need, uh, well, I remember one time I was calling a friend, and his name was Xavier, and I couldn't say his name and I couldn't say my name on the phone because you had to call the landline. It was a whole family, and now you know when you take a cell phone that when you call somebody, the right person is going to answer the phone. These were all very challenging things when I was young. I was very unhappy as a child, and it gave me big childhood traumas about being excluded from the group. This is still a very sensitive point for me. When it happens, I can get very quickly very angry and very emotional. So it has really shaped my life. Yeah.
Going through bullying and feeling rejected can definitely have a very big impact in
Yes.
our lives, and it's very tough, especially as a child when you're still understanding who you are and growing up and like maturing.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to make sense on why am I going through this? Why am I being rejected? Why people don't wanna talk to me, hang out with me?
Yeah.
And it's a very painful, it's a very painful experience. And I'm really sorry that you actually had to go
Yeah.
through it.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Um,
Yeah. It's to be bullied is really to be excluded, to be rejected. So mm, until I went to college when I was 18 and I could finally leave my home, now I get along fine with my parents and my brothers. But when I was younger, our relation was very bad. I had nobody on my side for 18 years, so it really shaped my. I'm still single. I'm not no. Well, I sometimes have a girlfriend, but I don't have any children. I'm 58. I'm unmarried, and I'm sure it's a direct consequence from the fact that you basically don't trust people. Um, it has become much better over the years. I have good friends now, but so I'm not alone. But um, I'm sure the fact that I'm not able to sustain a long, loving relationship stems back to the time when I felt completely unloved by the whole world, basically. Um, and again, it was a time. Now it's like we have in the Belgian Stuttering Association, we offer services to go to schools if there is bullying, but we have never been asked to do it. I'm not going to say there is no bullying anymore. That's I'm sure it happens, but most schools now understand the importance of it and stop it. And there are programs. They go talk to the children involved, and they try sometimes non-violent communication. So all these things are happening now, but in my time it was just well, if they bully you, you have to bully them back. But how could I? They told me I couldn't play football because I couldn't speak. So what are you going to do before you can say something back? They are already playing. So it's very hard. And it took a long time for me to get faith back into humans, basically. Um, but it all changed when I could leave the toxic environment of school and my family when I was 18. And then it got better and better, but it took years, and psychological damage was still huge. Uh, because you're basically told that you're worth nothing, nobody loves you, nobody likes you. I have had a childhood. It's hard to imagine, but I have never been in 12 years of school. I've never been invited to one birthday party. Nobody wanted me. Um, it's. I mean, when I see now how children go to school and how they are, loved by their parents, and I'm not gonna say it's easy to raise a child. I don't think it's an easy job, but um, I don't think my parents were aware of all these effects. I mean, it was just a time when bullying was more or less accepted. I mean, nobody. Of course, people knew it was no good, but they never stopped it. They never punished the ones that were bullying me.
what gave you the strength to grow up, follow your dreams, become a filmmaker, a writer, and really pretty much overcome all of these challenges? How did you find the strength? What motivated you, for instance, to become the president and to be the the co-founder of the Belgium Stuttering Association.
Yeah, well, the second part of the question is easy to answer. I made a stuttering a short film about my stuttering childhood when I was 33, and I came in touch with stuttering organizations who wanted to show this movie, and it was presented in the World Congress in Ghent. I got a standing ovation. It was distributed widely among the stuttering community, and it's still used in some universities across the world, and speech therapists educations to explain the the effect of stuttering on a child. But at that time I wasn't active in the stuttering organizations. I just came in touch with them, but I was asked around 2010, 2011 if I was willing to be the co-founder of an organization about stuttering in the Dutch-speaking part of Belgium. And I said yes, of course, because I basically wanted to avoid that other children had to go through what I went through. So I'm sure my parents meant well, but they did it all completely wrong because they didn't know any better. So now we try for more than 12, 13 years now to spread good and correct information about stuttering. We have my short film, we have an animation film about stuttering that explains what stuttering is in very clear language, suitable for all ages. And my main motivation was basically that also parents should, parents with a stuttering child or teachers with a stuttering child in the classroom should know how to take on this situation. And this is what we're doing. So we get a lot of, like 2-3 times a week, we are contacted by young parents of young children that start to stutter, and they ask us for help. So we help them. So I think it works quite well. And the fact that we are never called to school because there's a bullying situation that has gotten out of hand or something, that has never happened. So I think the general knowledge about stuttering is improving. There is, to be honest, a lot of bullshit on the internet. I mean, a lot of cures, 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months. It's always 3. It's always very expensive, or it's so-called free, but then you well, basically it's a lot of lies about stuttering. People can cure you of stuttering in a very short time, and so we have science-based. We have a scientific council with all specialists, so everything we write and do is backed up by these people. So it's correct information about stuttering, and you can see there's a lot of need about, like a few months ago, I got a telephone call from a man from Holland, from the Netherlands, and he was stuttering, and he asked me the truth about stuttering, and because he had been a lot in speech therapy, and they'd always told him that he could cure it or that he could get better, and that I told him the facts, basically, that if you stutter, it's in your brain, and your brain is not able to change. I mean, as a child, it's still possible. So you can overcome, you can get more fluent, but if you really have a serious stutter, then this will be probably stay with you for the rest of your life. And you can get better. You can get workarounds. You can go to the McGuire program. You can do other things. You can do speech therapy, and you can get more confident about your speech and more fluent. I mean, I think, well, I don't know how your stutter was when you were a child, but I think you speak also quite fluently. I do, so it's possible. But the real stuttering problem in your brain will I'm still not free to say what I want when I want to say it. I avoid the words, and I'm so good at it I don't even notice it myself anymore. So we try to provide the people with good and correct information and help them if they are looking for a speech therapist. The first thing, the first part of your question, where did I find the strength? That's a very good question. I don't know. I think I always believed that there should be a place in this world where I belonged, even though I didn't, for 18 years, have no clue where that place could be, because I was bullied by my brothers. My parents didn't help or stopped it. I was bullied in the classroom, so I was basically bullied everywhere. I didn't have a safe childhood. So where did I find the strength to go on? I don't know. That's a good question. I tried to get out of my bad environment, and this was possible when I went to college. When I went to in a student room in Leuven, and there the second part of my life started. That's how I see it. And that's basically a line that I put in the movie, because it's the ball of the end of the school, and one boy says to the other, "This is the first day of the rest of our lives." That's the way I saw it. And I always went on because I felt there was something artistic in me, and that I was brought up in a very classic way, very Catholic, I was in a Jesuit school. It was very good education, but on an emotional and a cultural and artistic level, they were very bad. I mean, so I discovered this artistic part of myself when I was 15, 16. And then I started to go and look for, first I went to the normal University of Leuven, but I felt this wasn't for me. Then I went to art history, which was okay, I'm getting close, This is the wrong side. This is the art theory. I want to make art. And then I went to film school. Though the first time I was rejected in film school, so there was an entry test. And I think basically I was still stuttering a lot, and I think they doubted me. Then I went away for a few years, and then I came back, and then they said, "Okay, now we accept you." But where I really find the strength, I have no idea, because I felt all alone in the world for a very long time, for the first 18 years of my life. So um, I think I always believed there was hope somewhere else, light at the end of the tunnel somewhere. And that was true. I mean, it was still a long fight, but I always kept fighting, I guess. But why? It's a good question. I don't really know. Yeah.
And well, first, where can people find the movie in case they want to watch it? And yeah, that is my question. Then I have another question.
Okay, yeah. Well, the movie is on the platform Vimeo. So I can send you the link if you want. So it's free, so you can, and it's Dutch spoken, but there's two versions. There's one, the original version, and one is Dutch spoken with French and English subtitles. So and it's about 14 minutes and a half. And by the way, this is quite interesting. So of course it's my story, my little story. But the funny thing is that I took it to film festivals, and it won a lot of selections of film festivals in the whole world, and it won 17 uh, um, awards, like from Quebec to New Zealand, St. Petersburg, Athens, Greece. There was a lot of, and I was very surprised because the movie speaks about me and my stuttering childhood, but a lot of people recognize themselves in the story, about probably the exclusion and the bullying really had a great impact on a lot of people, also non-stuttering people.
How is the movie called again?
It's called To Speak. Well, it starts, you have the boy on three ages. It starts with the boy at age 18 on a party, and then he thinks back of his school years, and he's 6 years old, 12 years old, and back to 18.
And how has your involvement with the stuttering community impacted your personal and your professional life?
Um, there hasn't been a big impact. It just takes a lot of time. In the beginning, when we started the association, there was a lot of meetings, and we needed a website, and so it took me a lot of time and energy, but it hasn't impacted me. It was, I made a movie already at the age where I left my home and my family literally when I was 18 to go to college. And at the time I made a movie, I was 33, so it was already 15 years ago then. And the making of the movie probably had some kind of effect on me, though it's hard to tell which one, because it was at one time it was my personal story, very personal. I was very emotional. A lot of people cry when they see the movie. Um, but on the other hand, I'm also a movie director, and I wrote the script. It's true, but it's still a fiction film, and I directed it. And I think it had an effect on me that I had to. I visited several film festivals, and once, I mean, you always are expected to introduce your own movie, to go on stage and do a public speech for 100 to 1,000 people. I mean, and I think that impacted me a lot. It gave me a lot of confidence to. I remember I was in Angers, a town in France. They had a very kind of famous star of a feature film, and I was just the short film before the feature. And I was on stage with her, and I had to introduce my movie, and it was very difficult because I had to do it in French, and I was stuttering a little bit, and some people in the audience started laughing, but then they saw the movie and they gave me a gigantic applause, gigantic applause, yeah.
I
And
can imagine the feeling that you had seeing people applauding you and really like praising your like work. And also it's a great way to raise awareness, right?
yes, 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 yes. But yeah, and it was very sharp because before the movie they were laughing a little bit because I was stuttering a little bit on stage because I had to do it in French, and basically the festival director had told them everything already. So he said, okay, this is Erik, he comes from Belgium, he has a movie together. He told everything, and then he just gave me the microphone and said, say something in French too. I mean, French is not an easy language for stuttering people because it's full of the que, the qu'est-ce que c'est? You know, it's always blocking, and I'm a blocking kind of stuttering person. So, but I won the Publix Awards, and the second movie was a French movie, and the statistics were out there at Valvas, and my movie had to score like this, and the second movie had to score like this. So, I mean, they just liked my movie a lot. So it gave me a lot of confidence to be, because this was a huge theater. I think there was 1,200 people in the theater. So, and I had to do it every festival again. I had to come in front on the stage and present myself and my movie. So this had a big effect on my public speech. I'm now very at ease if I have to speak in front of crowds. Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, it's really cool that you can actually combine your full-time job as a filmmaker to also raise like awareness
Yeah.
about stuttering.
Yeah.
Do you have any other projects in the future with maybe making some other movies about like stuttering?
Well, I always thought that I would make a feature film with a stuttering person, but of course the King's Speech has been made already. So, and I'm in a difficult period now as a filmmaker because I made a first film that was very successful, but I worked for 7 years on a second movie that was never realized because we only found half of the budget. It's not an easy country. We have a small country, and I'm already of the small Dutch language group, so I have to. The budgets are very limited. But I always thought that if I make another feature movie, it has to be about stuttering. But I'm I'm not sure if I have a story yet. Maybe to speak the feature movie, like what happened to the guy when he was 18 and now, I mean, what happened to the rest of his life. It's um it's in the back of my mind, but nothing is concrete yet.
Well, I am hoping that if you do that and if you finish, that is going to be great. You mentioned some like challenges, for instance, with your parents. Growing up, they didn't have a lot of like awareness about what
Oh,
is stuttering and how could they help you. If there is any parent right now watching you talking, what would you like advise them?
well, they should to get in touch with people like us, like people who stutter, and just get the good information and just ask questions and not because sometimes like we have young parents that contact us and they say, yeah, we have a child, he's 2 or 3 years old and he starts to stutter, and my husband thinks it's not a problem, but I'm not so sure. And then we basically say, just go to a specialist and he will tell you if it's stuttering or not. Don't wait. Don't. Sometimes they think it will pass. They think, yeah, a child is going through a period, but this period will go away. And in most cases, it doesn't go away. So it's good to contact us as well as quickly as you can, basically. Because the sooner you start therapy, the more chance you have of recovery. If you start your therapy later in life, after you're 14 or 16 years old, it gets more difficult because your brain is changing when you're a child. But when you're 14 or 16 years old, the brain stops changing. It's well, you could call it finished. And you can still learn a new language. You can still learn to play how to play the piano. But I always give that example. If you want to be a fantastic musician, you have to start very young. That's the same reason, because your brain is still adaptable to changes. I think it's a bit now a parent of a child who has a stuttering child, the first thing is they will go to the internet. And the only thing that we can hope for is that they find websites like our website, your website, Stamily, I mean the good
Sure.
organizations, yeah, the good parts, because as I told before, there's a lot of people telling bullshit on YouTube. I mean, And if it was only one or two, you could just take action against them and just, you know, challenge them. But there's so many people saying so many wrong things about it that you can only hope they get to the right people. But they mostly do. I mean, we have a lot of we help hundreds of people every year. So and if they still have any questions, we write them a long email with a long, detailed explanation about what stuttering is and how you find a therapist. And if they have questions, they can still call me. And I often get phone calls from parents, and then I just speak to them and I just answer all of their questions. And when you asked me before, what is the strength of, I mean, that is my motivation, of course, that I can by informing the parents that I can give the stuttering child a better life, not the childhood I had when nobody was aware. I mean, of course, they were all aware that I had a stuttering problem, but there was no stuttering awareness. They didn't have no information about it. They didn't know how to respond to it. They didn't know. My father once asked me, it's unbelievable if you think about it now, but he, he really did ask me if I wasn't ashamed that I let people wait for my words. I mean, that's something no parent should ever say that to a stuttering child.
Of course not, because then it makes you feel as if it's your fault and
Yeah,
as
yeah, 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 yeah. They gave me guilt feeling too. Yeah, it was my fault. It was my fault. So I made them. I made the situation awkward by my stuttering. I mean that's such a wrong reaction. But my father didn't know any better. Uh,
exactly.
yeah, so I was bullied, and my mother came from the time when bullying was not accepted, but to say, well, if they do something, you have to say something back. Then it will stop. If you defend yourself, it will stop. But how could I defend myself? I mean, I was never a very muscle guy. Otherwise, I could just hit. But I don't believe in violence. I cannot do violence, and if you cannot speak, how can you react? So I mean, so you're an easy victim, you know. Um,
What is the most common question that you guys get at the Belgian Stuttering Association?
well, the most common question we get is, where can I find a good stuttering therapy for my child? So that is we have a website with all kinds of information, but this is the question we get asked the most. And it's almost every time it's a parent, sometimes it's a grandparent, and it's no difference between men or women or something. The fathers just contact us just as easily as the mothers. Um, and it's always for young children, really young, really like 2, 3, 4 years old. So they have started, they saw that their child is starting to repeat parts of words, and they're very uncertain about it, and they want to, well, they want to know if there's a real problem or not. So then we say, okay, well, we can help you with information, but of course, we're not speech therapists. You cannot be a speech therapist and be a member of the board. So you cannot make money out of stuttering. So we want to really have no conflict of interest. So this is why we have the scientific board aside. So they're all specialists. So we just help them to find people in their area with who are speech therapists and who have another degree in stuttering therapy.
And you have mentioned also that you have been a keynote speaker for several international like stuttering events.
Yeah.
What is the key message that you try to focus on when it comes to like stuttering? And how do you prepare for the public speaking engagement like this?
Well, there have been two periods where I was asked a lot. So the first period was when I had a movie. So then I was invited to the World Congress in Ghent. I was invited to the European Congress in Strasbourg, and I was invited to a private organization in England, and that consisted in the showing of the short film, and then telling about my own childhood. So basically, telling my own story, like I'm telling you now. Uh, and I remember the reactions again of people who don't know anybody who stutters. They were really amazed that stuttering could have such a big influence on your life. They were really, I remember certainly in England, because this was a charity event, you know, they have these events in England where you have a speaker, a few speakers, and it's for charity. And here the charity was, and it's a really sad story. Um, it's called Dom's Fund, and Dom was a boy. He's deceased, unfortunately. So he took his own life at age 26 because he couldn't take the social isolation and the problems of stuttering anymore. And then his parents started a fund in his name, and they paid a researcher, and they also raise awareness about stuttering. So, and I was one of the speakers at the charity event. And of course, there's a lot of people who come who are thinking about donating money because that's the aim. And I remember when I showed the movie and I explained about the effect on stuttering on my life, that the people's their jaws dropped. They was like, they were like they had no idea. They had absolutely no idea. So I think there is a lot of money that evening. Um, and then the second part of keynote speaker, well, I wasn't really a keynote until then, I think, but I've started a project called Stuttering in Movies. I started it at the World Congress in Iceland, which was 2019, I think. So it's already 5 years. So because I showed in Iceland at the World Congress, I gave a presentation about stuttering in movies, and I showed 7 very different clips how stuttering persons are portrayed in movies, like stupid, like a problem, they give wrong information, they sometimes there's no reaction, sometimes it's a good representation, etc. So I give all these examples, and we started the project because it became clear that movies have a big influence on stuttering awareness. Movies are well, movies are the most consummated art form. And the problem is that a lot of people take the information they see in a movie for real. So and we have like found that like big stars like Adam Sandler. He's a very big star. He's one of the biggest comedy stars in the world, and he used stuttering 3 times in movies, and always to make fun of it. The Water Boy is a horrible movie, if you're a stuttering person, because he's really bullied. The bullies are encouraged. He's physically attacked. So, but there was a need to see all the movies with stuttering characters and see like how we are portrayed, if the information is correct in the movies, etc. And so up until now, we have identified almost 500 movies with stuttering characters, and I found 220 of them, and I've seen them all. And so the presentations I've been giving last years is mainly for the stuttering in movies. And you have, I don't have the right figures here in front of my eyes, but we always think like stuttering is used in movies. I mean, if you ask stuttering persons, like, why do they use stuttering in movie? They mostly say, well, it's just to have a good laugh, you know, as a joke. And we found out that this is only true in 14% of the cases. So in more than 30% of the movies, 35%, the stuttering person is there and nobody has a remark. So it's very good actually. So it's one character stutters, who cares? Nobody says something positive or negative. They're just accepted the way they are, which is of course nice. And then about 30% of the movies have a dramatic reason for stuttering. So so the joke was only the fourth or the fifth reason to be in the movie, you know. So and right now I'm working on trying to make a website where all this information is going to be. So we're gonna make a page about every movie, and make lists of movies you want to see. Like if you're a parent and you have a stuttering child, you know, what kind of movies would you advise your child to see? You know, there are children movies that are very nice to see, some adult movies. I mean, like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is a fantastic movie, but it's not really suited for children. But it's a right way of portraying a stuttering character. Brad Dourif is doing a very nice job then, and of course you have the King's Speech, but so we can also make lists about 10 movies to watch, 10 movies to avoid, 10 movies for children, etc. So but how do I prepare them? Because that was not part of your question. The presentations of the movie I just never prepared because I just did it like I do here. I just speak about my childhood and it goes very easy. The stuttering in movies is a very different thing because there is a lot of graphics and a lot of work. It took me 1 week before the first presentation because there's a lot of it's called turning tables, I think in English, Draaitabellen. So where you have statistics and you can automatically turn them into graphics. So this took a lot of preparation for me. But as I said before, because I did all of the presentations at the film festivals for big crowds, I am not scared anymore of speaking in public. So it doesn't stress me out or something.
That's super. That's super. And I have a final question, Eric. Actually, I have two questions. If someone wants to contact the Belgium Stuttering Association, what is the best way? And my last question is actually, what advice would you give to people who stutter?
Yeah. Well, if they want to contact us, they can just go to the website and you can find my mail there. It's I'm not gonna say the mail now because we just changed. We were part of Google and we're not part of Google anymore. So the right email is on the website. That's the most easy thing to do. In the beginning, I had my telephone number on the website, but we stopped that because then you have well, you get a lot of problems with your phone with advertisement and stuff. So the easiest thing is to write me a mail. And what advice would I give to people to stutter? I would just say, I think it's important to have the people that surround you to give them good information about stuttering, about how they have to deal with you, how I have to, like a question we get asked a lot, like can we finish your sentences? And I say, well, ask the person. You can, because most people who stutter don't like that you finish their words or their sentences, even if you know what they're going to say, because Sometimes it's very clear that they're stuttering on a word and you know what the word is. But you can simply ask the person who stutters if he or she likes it, if you complete their words or their sentences. And I would just, for the young people, I would just say, surround yourself with people that like you and love you, and look for support in peer groups. Become a member of your national stuttering organization, do things, go to the weekends and the Erasmus Plus weeks we organize now. So that is a fantastic way of dealing with your stuttering. And like I was at the World Congress last year in Liverpool, or I think it was 2 years ago. And it was fantastic. And I saw a lot of young people, and it was really, and I was very happy for them that they were surrounded by a lot of young people that also stutter, because they share their stories and they share their pain sometimes. They had a very good vibe going on there, I think. And I think it's I'm still a member of a few WhatsApp groups, like the Stammery groups, and like when somebody has a very important speaking situation coming up, like a job interview or a speech in class or in college. They ask for support and they get support. So get support wherever you can, and then you will not feel alone, and then you will grow up to be a normal person, just a person with stutter.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you so much. It's so refreshing and so nice to get to know you more, to know your life story. And it's amazing how you were able to get out of that place of feeling rejected and alone, and still grow and become a filmmaker, a writer. It doesn't mean that the pain it's not there. You probably had to really deal with a lot of other situations to be where like you are now. But the fact that you were able to overcome so many situations, and despite all of the challenges that you had to go through, you are doing so much. You're doing so much work. You are raising like awareness about stuttering to thousands of people. You are helping people with through the Belgium is stuttering association, and you keep doing it. So I would just really, I want to thank you for all the good work that you're doing for helping others, and for being the support and the voice for those who feel that they don't have a voice. Because I do believe that we all have, but sometimes we might feel that our voice is not really being heard. So you are being the voice for a lot of people who stutter. So thank you so much for that.
You're welcome. Great. Okay, good.
Have a good evening.
Have a good evening. Goodbye.
Bye bye.
Bye.